Good evening. My name is Evan Gregory, and this is Bible Answers. We're going to be looking at the topic of contentment tonight. And so I have all the screen verses, all the verses on the screen here so you can follow along. This is, as always, brought to you by North Columbus Church of Christ, located in Columbus, Mississippi. Our website, scrolling below me, is northcolumbuschristians.com. You can find out more about us there. You can look at past sermons that are preached there, and you certainly are more than welcome to visit. Again, you'll find the directions there on the website, how to get there, where we are. And services are Sunday, 9, 10, 11 a.m., and on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And so, again, our topic is on contentment. And certainly in this country, I would say that we have a huge issue with being content. It seems like constantly you're pressured, either through advertisements or whatever it may be, to purchase things whether you need them or not. And if you have something, maybe you need to upgrade it or switch to some other brand. Enough is really never enough. And again, we see that in all different sorts of ways. you know from new trucks, bigger and better houses, and even with we think about being discontent, primarily maybe a poor person or someone who doesn't have just a whole lot of money. But we even see, I would say some discontent even amongst people who are wealthy. We have these people that are just striving in all ways to get bigger. We got, rich people that are, having space races. They're trying to build rocket ships and all this stuff for whatever reason, and you see this continual, really this continual growth, or striving to get more and more. And it doesn't really seem like there's really an end game or purpose for these things. It's just to have the stuff, maybe to look cool or to seem, maybe to look like you got it all together and are wealthy, even when you really don't. And that's a problem in our country. There's extreme amounts of debt. People like to just tend to spend all of their money, and even as they get raises, they continue to advance their lifestyle. On the screen here we have this term called lifestyle creep, which probably everybody that's going to watch this has heard of that. And so it's a very big issue, and again, it's focused on just as soon as you get a little bit of extra money that you spend it on stuff, or you find a reason why you should spend it. And not just and of course we talk about, and if you watch the news, a lot of people say that the cost of everything is going up, and that's true. But a lot of times people's financial problems are based on the fact that they just, again, they want stuff that they actually don't need. It's not that they can't afford shoes or clothes or whatever it may be. It's the fact, well, I want the fanciest pair of shoes, or I want the fanciest clothes, or whatever it may be. And that causes us to be discontent because so and so, our neighbor, the Joneses, they have all of this stuff. And because they have it, we want to look like them, we want to be like them, and causes problems. And with this lesson, we'll primarily be talking about physical things and being content with our material things and our lot in life. But this idea of contentment can go in a lot of different ways. We could look at contentment in marriages or any other type of relationships. And so, but I think there are principles that we can live by here, even though they may not necessarily be talking about those relationships specifically. In 1 Timothy 6 and verse 6 through 8, it says, "Now godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into this world, and it's certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and clothing, with these we shall be content." So Paul here is writing to Timothy, and he says, really, specifically what he's going to be content with, as long as he has food and clothing, he's good with that. And I don't think he's saying that, I might would prefer a house to live in or whatever, or a little bit extra. But he's learned to basically understand that if he just has what he needs, that is enough, and he's going to be content with that. And we see that he says, "For we brought nothing into this world, and it's certain we can carry nothing out." So he understands that the things that one may have, they are of a temporary nature, and those things are there's more important things than our stuff. And so this is in Matthew 5, and and this may be a lot to read. And in Matthew 5, I have several verses here, and on the right we have the New King James version, or the left rather, we have the New King James version, and on right we have the Young's Literal Translation. And New King James is probably what most are familiar with. It uses the term blessed. For example, it says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." But this word that is translated as blessed is sometimes also translated as fortunate, or as happy, or happiness. And on the right here, we have the Young's Literal Translation. And I just find it interesting that instead of using the word blessed, uh, they use the word happy. It says, for example, instead of blessed are the poor in spirit, it says happy the poor in spirit. And for happy the peacemakers, because they shall be sons of God. And I think it's very interesting here, because I do believe that these people are blessed. And they're blessed by God, and because of attitudes, and because of their because of what they're doing. But this term, or this usage of the word happy, I think it lends more credit, at least makes me think more of the attitude of the individual behind it, and how it impacts us. That because of our proper understanding of what we're suffering, and why we may be suffering certain things, or why we may be doing certain things, is because of a certain end goal, and because of that, it affects our attitude. And I think it's an appropriate usage of that term, instead of using blessed, that we say happy are these individuals, because they truly are. In 1 Peter 4 and verses 12 through 14, this is talking about trials that Christians may suffer, and specifically that they may be persecuted in some way. It says, "If you are reproached for the name of Christ, blessed are you, for the Spirit of God, glory and of God rests upon you." Again, Young's Little Translation will say, "If you are reproached for the name of Christ, happy are you." And again, it's because that if you are suffering, as he says that rejoice to the extent that you partake of Christ's sufferings. And so these things in which one endures are evidence that you are Christ, and that he suffered. You can expect to suffer. And so again, these things, and the proper understanding of why we're doing things or enduring certain things, uh, should have, I think, a tremendous impact upon our attitude. And ultimately understanding that this blessedness, or this happiness, is coming from God, and understanding of why we're going through certain things. And once we have our mind more focused on Christ, more focused on these spiritual things, then the physical things won't matter as much. In Hebrews 13 verse 5 says, "Let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have, for he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you." Again, he says, "Be content with such things as you have." And so why would you be content? Well, apparently it would affect one's conduct. At the beginning, it says, "Let your conduct be without covetousness." If you're coveting, you're envying someone else's good, it certainly would have an impact on one's attitude, one's conduct. But he says, rather, that you be content. And he says, "For he himself," this being God, has said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." And so the writer here is saying that God's not left you. He's not forsaken you. You're going to be all right. He's going to take care of you. And because of that, because we recognize that he's always with us, then that allows us, or should cause us, to be content with whatever we may have, and whatever lot in our life we may have. And so we see also in Job 1 and verse 21. Remember, Job, he was extremely wealthy, and he goes from extremely wealthy to having absolutely nothing, and in a very short amount of time. And we see Job's response to this. He says, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So I think here Job shows this proper mindset that basically he's just like, well, it is what it is. I didn't have nothing when I was born, and when I die, I won't have nothing. So it's just everything's. I don't know if he would describe it as okay, but certainly he can tolerate all of what's has befallen him, and it's not phased him to the point where he's going to deny the Lord or basically reject God. Rather he says, "Blessed be the name of the Lord." That he's still going to worship God regardless of what has befallen him in his life. Now, we've looked at that, but we have to recognize that this idea of contentment does not mean that we just once we maybe we reach a certain point in our life that we say, okay, we're content with this, and then we just stop. We just sit up and do nothing for the rest of life, or we coast for the rest of the life. It does not mean that we don't have any goals or ambitions. Certainly Paul, if you read what Paul has written, certainly he would say that he's content, while at the same time having tremendous goals, tremendous ambitions. That he works tirelessly for his goal, and also for us, even in our work, that we have certain goals for that. Ephesians 4 and verse 28 lines out a goal for our work. It says that we could work, or one may work, that he may have something to give to him who has need. And so you're not just working to hoard up for yourself. You're working for others who are in need. 1 Corinthians 16 and verse 2. It says that basically one is to work and lay aside on the first day of the week, in particular in this case for needy Christians, and so that they're storing up as they may prosper. So again, they're working, and if they basically, what this is saying is, if they they gain more, they prosper more, or their level of giving is in relation to their level of prosperity. And of course, in Proverbs in 28 and verse 19, it says, "He who tills his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows frivolity will have poverty enough." And so there's plenty in the Bible, and this is just 3 verses. It talks about Christians working, needing to work, and that they should be very good workers. And so they have this drive, they have this ambition to do their best in whatever they may do. But if we work, we hopefully we're prospering with our work, but we have to be careful with that. We see many times in the scriptures of the caution to those that are rich, and the condemnation of those that desire to be rich. 1 Timothy 6 verse 9 says, "But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition." And so those that desire to be rich, those that want it, those that just, that's all that they're about, that they are going to fall in temptation and a snare, that they're going to drown in destruction and perdition. And it's not, again, he's not saying that it's sinful to be rich, but he is saying that it's sinful to desire to be rich, that would be your focus. That's your drive, is just to gain more stuff here. We see also in Luke 12 and verses 19 through 21, a story of a man who's, he's gathered up so much, he's torn down barns and built bigger so he would have enough space to store all the stuff. And it says, "And I will say to my soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will those things be which you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God." That at the end of the day, he felt secure because of all his stuff, and he can just retire, take it easy for the rest of his life. But we see here that he's going to die. That night, his soul is going to be required for him. And now, what good are those things? They're absolutely useless for him. And so that those that lay up treasure for themselves and are not rich toward God, they're not focused on their spiritual things, this is what's going to be the end of them. That their stuff is not going to matter. Their stuff is not going to help them at all. And so it's a sense of false security that, we may say that we are secure here because of all the stuff and the wealth that we may have, but it's not true security. When they die, that it's of no use for them. And so what we have to do is we have to be careful with our wealth. But at the end of the day, whether we're poor, whether we're rich, we have to learn to be good with anything we may face, and we're content with where we're at in our life, and that we don't be consumed with. If we're poor, we're not consumed with envy or bitterness or resentment towards rich people, and if we are rich, we don't become just consumed with those desires for that wealth, that we focus, that our focus is on God, on the spiritual things which are of the utmost importance. Paul says in Philippians 4 and verses 11 through 13, says, "Not that I speak in regard to need, for I've learned in whatever state I am to be content. I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And so a lot of people probably know that last verse, verse 13, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And I think a lot of people use that verse in, they take it completely out of context. They say that, they may use this if they're going to take a math test, or, take, do something that's really not important. But we see here in the context that Paul is basically saying, I've learned how to be abased. I know how to abound. Whatever state I'm in, I'm going to be content. And that being because of the strength that he has through Christ, that if he suffers, he can endure it. And if not, and if it's good times, that's certainly good as well. And so we have to develop that same attitude. And I don't think we can develop that attitude outside of Christ. That is simply, think it's impossible. There has to be something that we can latch on to and not be consumed by what we see in the world. And we see Paul has found this contentment in Christ, and I think we all can find that a contentment in Christ. And so this is the end of our lesson. I hope that it's been useful for you. If you got any questions, comments, feel free to leave those here. And we also put these videos up on YouTube. Our YouTube page is North Columbus Church of Christ. And leave a comment, whatever it may be there. Subscribe to our YouTube page as well. And you'll be notified when we have new videos uploaded. So again, I hope this has been useful for all of you. And until next time, I hope that you have a good day and a good rest of the week. Thanks.